Welcome to Wellness Wednesday. Can you believe that we are almost halfway through 2023? This month, we are being intentional about our brain health in recognition of Alzheimer's and Brain Health Awareness Month. Did you know that over 2/3 of those diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease are women? This is an alarming statistic, and ladies, we must take action now to change this narrative to protect and recover our brain health. Probiotics are known to be one of the best preventative measures against cognitive decline in Alzheimer's disease. In this episode, my guest, Natasha Trenev, is known as the mother of probiotics. She shares how bacterial strains slow down the progression of mental health decline, as well as a number of other health conditions. This show will arm you with information and resources to take control not only of your brain health, but your total health. Let's get into it. When it comes to women's health, there's an overwhelming amount of information out there, and honestly, it can be quite confusing. Diets, fads, trends, which one is right? What if I told you the answers to optimal health can be found in one of the most ancient medical books ever written, the Bible? If you're ready to take the guesswork out of living a healthier life, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Rock Your World Naturally show. I'm Rekishia McMillan, honorably retired Air Force veteran, certified health coach, and award-winning author. After years of trying to recover my health the world's way, I was still sick, depressed, and had no energy. Finally, I surrendered to God, and He showed me in the Bible how to recover my health, and it rocked my world naturally. My calling is to help women who are struggling and burnout to have more energy and lose weight by using God's prescription for physical, mental, and spiritual health. If you're ready to experience extraordinary health, grab your favorite herbal tea or power smoothie, and let's get ready to rock your world naturally. Thank you so much to all of those who are tuning in to our episode on this week. And today's topic is something that impacts so many of us as women across the board, and it has to do with our mental health and our gut health. And we're going to talk about how those two are intimately related and how they affect every aspect of our lives. And I am so excited today to have our probiotics expert, Natasha Trenev, with us on today. And she is actually known as the mother of probiotics. She is the first person in the 1980s in North America to introduce the category of probiotic dietary supplements for human use. She has lectured around the world and introduced the concept of probiotics to Canada, Mexico, Australia, Singapore, Belgium, Amsterdam, and England. For 40 years, she has stated that proper precision probiotic selected beneficial bacteria supplementation will have profound effects on every aspect of human health that includes physical, mental, emotional, skin, and organ health. It will be regarded as the foundation of health. The confusion that currently exists in the field of probiotics is delaying the indispensable aid to optimal health the proper precision probiotic supplementation can provide. As Natasha shares and believes, there is no time to waste. So, Natasha, thank you so much for being my guest on the show today.
My pleasure. And this is my favorite topic to discuss because I believe it is the foundation of health for the 21st century.
Mhm. And so you were a pioneer introducing probiotics in the 80s to North America. And so, what was it for you, Natasha, that really got your attention to know that this was something that was needed for human health?
Well, to give you a brief history, my family introduced natural Bulgarian style yogurt in the 1960s. And I set the yogurt standard for the state of California, and I assisted the New York State to setting the real kefir standard. And people don't understand that it's the bacteria that are used as starter cultures to ferment this food that allows themselves to be called yogurt or kefir. And why I've chosen to go into this field, because I saw that these functional foods, if they're properly prepared, had a great impact on people's life. Fast forward, we have many more problems. In fact, we are spending $4.3 trillion on healthcare, and 80% of that is chronic illness. To me, that's the real epidemic. That we are spending more money than any other country, yet the number of chronically ill people is rising exponentially. And we know from science that we are a hybrid of bacteria and human cells, and that the proper beneficial bacteria, when they're not used just to treat symptoms, actually perform many functions that is necessary for our body every minute of the day to produce healthy proteins to replace the human cells we're losing. And that's approximately 10 million every minute. And our 50 trillion cells that compose our body are replaced every year. So we have an opportunity with the help of the proper precision probiotics to make sure our body is not creating cheap proteins that lead to disease.
Hmm. And you just hit on a key point, Natasha, when you were talking about the cells, because our health, it really does begin at the cellular level. And so, with the probiotics or the supplementation that individuals are able to access or partake of, how does that actually help with cellular health?
Okay, so that's a whole continuing medical education subject, but I'll try to give it in a nutshell. First of all, as I said, we're hybrids, and we have become not the most desirable habitat for these beneficial bacteria. As you know, stomach acid is to not only digest proteins, but to kill bacteria that come in through our food, our air, and our water. That system is broken. And that's a huge lecture to explain why that system is broken. And it's amplified when anybody takes antacids or anything to stop the acid production. So there's 100 trillion microbes lining the 27 feet of our GI tract. If you took out the small intestine and spread it over a tennis court, that would be the number of things that you have going on in your body. So, having said that, these beneficial bacteria communicate with every immune cell by photon light emission. They also guard the intestinal wall from damage by other pathogenic bacteria or undesirable yeast. They make sure that the body is being nourished with the right size, molecular size of nourishment, so it doesn't cause food sensitivities or allergies. They make sure that the body is able to utilize that nourishment in the most effective way. It also, these beneficial bacteria produce what we call neurotransmitters, and these neurotransmitters are very important to our mental health. For instance, up to 90% of our serotonin is produced in our gut and sent up to the first brain via the vagus nerve. And about 50% of dopamine is produced in our gut. That's also sent to our first brain. And it also, they produce precursors to the production of GABA and tryptophan and a host of beneficial chemicals to keep not only our body, but our brain healthy. So this is just in a nutshell what it does. Now, bacteria are found everywhere. Bacteria are found in our brain cells. They're found in our productive organs. They're found everywhere in our body, including our bloodstream. So this maintenance of the positive bacteria dominance is very important to our health and longevity. And unfortunately, we have become an undesirable habitat for the beneficial bacteria. And contrary to popular belief, they're not stupid and they don't stay anywhere where they don't think they can thrive. And just the last bit of information, that 40% of your dry weight fecal matter is bacteria. So you're expelling bacteria every day you have your normal function. So that's why just eating fermented foods, and especially fermented foods that are not regulated as to what the starter cultures are or how many beneficial bacteria you're getting, we are now forced to give the proper beneficial bacteria that have evolved with humanity and are our friends under all conditions and help our body to sustain health and to live a long, healthy life.
Hmm. That is so powerful just to think about how much of our lives are impacted by this. And you had mentioned, Natasha, that serotonin is actually produced in our gut.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know that a lot of times we hear that the gut is the second brain. And is it because the serotonin is produced there? Or can you expound on why the gut is called the second brain?
Yeah. Again, there's something we call the enteric nervous system, and that's sort of separate from the other nervous systems. And it really regulates what's the communication via the vagus nerve with the first brain. And that nervous system reacts to adverse conditions because it's found in the gut, and the vagus nerve is connected from the abdomen to the first brain. So any disturbance in the gut will have an effect on this nervous system and its communication and ability to produce the neurotransmitters we need.
Mm. And that makes sense as well. And so, with individuals facing so many mental health challenges today, can you share how the mental health and our gut health, how they're related, and what we might be able to do to kind of help remedy some of those things?
All right. Well, I'm going to make you smile because if you remember, in the 70s, there was something called the Hostess Twinkie defense. And
Hmm.
that's when a official in California went on a rampage and shot Harvey Milk, one of the supervisors, and that's how Dianne Feinstein became our senator, consequently first becoming mayor and then senator. And what the defense was about, that this person, I think I have to look up his name again. His name was Dan something. Uh,
Hmm.
but the name is not important. The fact was that his defense was that his consumption of sugary foods caused his glycemic index to go up and down so violently, and that can cause violent behavior.
Hmm.
It's been proven by numerous clinical trials that when your glycemic index is unstable and you're eating a lot of sugary foods, you become violent. That was also supported by a juvenile case, no, actually, juvenile facility case we had in the late 1970s, where we showed that when the juveniles were given proper food, they actually went through withdrawal symptoms because they were craving these sweets so drastically, and the level of violence within weeks was reduced to 70%. So we know that foods do trigger certain growth of yeast, bad bacteria, and viruses that can cause violent behavior or unstable behavior.
Wow, that is an incredible statistic. And just thinking about so much of the diet, here in America, that it is so much processed food. It's not even really food, it's a food particle. And we have
Mhm.
so many of our young people just consuming these food particles that don't provide the nutrition. But I find it interesting that it is associated or connected with violent behavior.
Well, absolutely. It can also be destabilizing, cause depression, anxiety, crying, mood swings, you name it. Food has a profound effect on our body. And as a matter of fact, why you need these precision probiotics is because there are up to 209 chemicals in the processed foods we consume on a daily basis. Our body is overwhelmed with toxic overload. And
Mm,
I hate to say that there's also processed foods in the health food store, but we're just not aware of it, especially when people are told you can't consume dairy, and then they go and consume almond milk,
mm,
coconut milk, oat milk. They're not really milks, they're processed foods. I'm not
yeah.
saying I'm against them. I'm just saying they're not in their natural state. And
Mm,
this is where I think the confusion comes into our culture. I tell people if you want to become a vegan, you better take a crash course in Indian cooking because it's the only
mm,
society I know has figured out how to be a vegan and keep your body healthy.
mm. Wow. And so just, the mindset around food, what food is, and
Mhm.
the many definitions of, as you shared, what is vegan. And so, from your experience, Natasha, would you say that a whole food diet is the best approach when it comes down to promoting healthy gut health?
Yeah, it is. And you have to learn that if you're compromised, you cannot eat raw foods because raw foods have what we call background noise. There are
Mm,
bacteria that are there. And unfortunately, for the last 3 or 4 generations, people in the North American sector do not know how to properly clean their food
mm,
and how to uphold sanitary conditions in their kitchen.
mm,
And as a consequence, I tell people you have to saute or cook food, not in the microwave, but to slowly saute it like we do in the European countries, where we help to break down some of that food. And we also get rid of the background noise. To I think about 80 to 90% of the population now is sensitive to the background bacteria that is found in food.
mm. You had mentioned something too, and I have not used a microwave. I can't even remember. I think I'm going on maybe 20 years. I have not really used a microwave. But can you talk about how that impacts food? Like when we're microwaving food, like does that change the composition? Like how does that affect gut health?
Yeah, well, first of all, I can just tell you in my house, of which I've lived for 34 years, I actually had to sign a waiver to have my contractor not install a microwave. This
Mm,
is how ingrained this, process is in our minds. So basically, when you're using a microwave, you're heating food from the inside out.
mm,
And there is a great belief in the nutritional groups that I'm associated with that that's not a healthy process, that it damages the molecular structure of the food that you're heating in the microwave, including water. People say, oh, I just use the microwave to heat water. I wouldn't suggest it because the normal way to heat food is from the outside in.
mm,
And we don't know how much radiation leak is. There's all kinds of studies and people saying, but let me tell you my knowledge of science that 90% of the scientists who conduct clinical trials usually want to satisfy the person paying for it. So
mm.
it's not actually unbiased or factual. So you have to really use what's between your ears and figure out, does this make sense to you that we've been for thousands of years cooking food from the outside in, and now we're cooking food from the inside out?
Hmm. Wow. And I've never heard it put that way before, but it makes so much sense. And so it's really not a healthy process, whether, as you said, heating water or the food, because we're really changing the molecular structure and damaging the food. And then we're ingesting that, which has
Mhm.
great impact on our health.
Yeah, and we also wolf down food. One thing I tell people, if you look at France and Eastern Europe or even Italy, people sit down with family and friends, they shut off their phone, they'll listen to music, they'll laugh, they'll eat their food slowly, chew their food slowly, and it becomes a wonderful thing where you're nourishing your body not only psychologically but physically.
Mhm.
And I hate this idea that kids are microwaving their food and going to their room, not even talking to their parents. This is such a detrimental practice.
Mhm.
It's destroying the beneficial bacteria. In fact, the level of destruction is so bad that many people are so prone to autoimmune disease, which is another
Mm.
chronic disease that's exploding because of all these practices we incorporated into the culture, and we've really alienated each other from other family members. I'm going to say that one of the main reasons for mental and physical health destruction is children microwaving processed food and or getting in fast food into the home, taking it to their room and being married to the devices and
Mm.
not really sitting down at a table with their parents where love and stories are exchanged and all of the devices are put aside. So we're making the human connection, which by the way really helps to help you digest your food. You don't wolf down your food, you chew it properly, and you start not only nourishing your body but your mind and the emotions that are exchanged with the parents, which should be positive and loving. And
Mhm.
that's what builds a society of healthy people, not only mentally, but physically.
And that's so true because I remember growing up, like sitting down and having a meal with my family. That was just the expectation. We were not all pulled in different directions. Dinner time was this time. We had breakfast together. And so even now in my own home, it's like nobody's got digital devices. And so I think we have to be really intentional, as you're sharing, Natasha, about
Mhm.
preserving these things because we don't realize the gravity or the impact of just having that conversation with our children, with our loved ones, with our family members, and the the ability to have a healthy meal together. It's We see it dwindling more and more as time goes on.
Yep. And I think it's destroying our society. And this chronic illness, both mental and physical, is an attribute to people being isolated, to consuming poisons on every level. For
Mm.
instance, to give you a very prominent point, is that we've all talked about this pesticide Roundup. We've all heard
Yeah.
about the
Yes.
and we've understood the dangers of uh, the chemical use glyphosate.
Mm.
And what nobody's telling anybody is that the reason those people who were exposed to glyphosate were getting the cancers was that that chemical destroys the microbiota.
Mm.
Reason they were allowed to use the pesticide because they gave the FDA a cell line of human cells that were not damaged. But nobody talked about destroying the microbiome and how that leads to disease.
Oh my goodness. And for those that may not be familiar with the microbiome, I know it's the gut health, but can you kind of elaborate a little bit on that microbiome for our listeners?
Sure. There's something we call the microbiota. That's the microbes that line your GI tract, the 100 trillion, and there's more trillions around your body. And the microbiome really is the sum of all the genetic material that those microbes have. And both the genetic material and the microbes were destroyed with the exposure to this chemical. And when that happens, our body's producing cheap proteins, which then lead to disease. It's a very simple process when you break it down that way. When you destroy your microbiome, which is the genetic material that's found in the microbes, or you destroy the microbes themselves, it creates disease.
Mm. Wow, this is a very powerful conversation. And so, Natasha, what can we do to protect ourselves or for someone who may have gut health issues that are related or connected to their mental health? I think just some of the things that you've shared as far as looking at how we're preparing food, like eliminating the microwave, cutting down the fast foods or eliminating those. Like, what are some things that we can do to repair the gut health?
Right. Well, first of all, I would recommend a low carbohydrate diet, which I have on my website, designed by a doctor and me 20 years ago. It's absolutely free. Anybody that goes to the website. I'm also the founder of the whole category of probiotics, as you mentioned. And I'm sorry to say that most of the dietary supplement categories have been diluted, you know, taken to a level was mostly commercial and there's no real substance. Yes, some of them will show you clinical trials, but remember what I said, 97% of all the scientists agree that whoever pays them the funding is the result that you're going to get. So I've stopped even listening to clinical trials. So the important thing is to know what bacteria need to be ingested on a daily basis to ensure small intestinal health, large intestinal health, the transient flora, and which of these organisms will maintain optimal health on a daily basis, because I did not create the problem. We as a society have created the problem, and fermented foods are no longer adequate to restore anything because of the destruction that we have brought on by ourselves. And so, as the originator of a probiotic labeling standard that was read into congressional record and accepted by the whole health food industry in 1989, I can say virtually nobody's following those standards, and anything goes as long as the consumer is convinced they're going to give them a magic pill and they're going to get rid of the symptom. What
Mhm.
I'm offering here is to reinstate the optimal balance of the most important ecosystem in your body, and that is the ecosystem that is controlled by the beneficial bacteria in your small intestine and your large intestine, on your skin, in all of your organs, in your bloodstream. It is a cooperation with the body that I'm trying to reestablish. It's not to treat symptoms or to take care of something temporarily that may have other consequences in the body. No, I'm going back to the old fashioned philosophy that if you give your body the tools, it is a brilliant biological machine and it can heal itself if you give it the proper mental and physical tools to help it heal itself.
Mm. And that's so good because as you shared that, sometimes, in our society, it is a pill for every ill, Natasha,
Mhm.
or
I know.
just treating it in a way that's not going to help the person heal overall. And I like the fact that you said that you're not trying to treat the symptoms, but you're looking at the holistic, the whole person of healing the body, giving it what it needs to heal itself.
Yeah. Exactly. And I've been doing this for 54 years.
Mm.
I've been in this field, probiotics, for 40 years. I've lectured across the world. I've worked with the best universities, the best hospitals, and they're all closed-minded to this because they're looking for symptomatic relief. They don't
Mm.
understand the concept of making sure the most important ecosystem, that one inside your body, is maintained optimally to make sure your body is replacing every cell in your body effectively every year. And that leads to longevity and good health. It's
Yeah.
very simple.
Hmm. And so, with the work that you do, Natasha, I'm sure that you've come across so many different individuals with different cases. Is there one case in particular that stands out to you the most where someone recovered, their gut health and that in turn restored their mental?
Mhm.
Because I think many times that, people may be diagnosed with certain conditions, but it could certainly just be related to a gut health issue.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's thousands of people who have come, but one was many years ago with a very prominent tennis player in Great Britain. His name was John Lloyd. And I only found that accidentally. I had no idea. But he was struggling with a very severe gastrointestinal problem. And he was literally having to mark toilets within a 5 mile area because he was afraid to leave home because of the instability of his stomach.
Mm.
And so he had the ability to try everything. And so, by a recommendation of another friend, he tried my product that's called Healthy Trinity, that it's really unique, nothing like it in the world. And he said he was able to regain his function, his life back within a couple of weeks. And for him, he's still my client. It was a miracle.
Wow.
And yeah, there's a lot of people with these kind of issues, these diarrhea, especially around young women who become housebound because they're afraid to go anywhere.
Mhm.
And people in that we now know that colon cancer is exploding in numbers, and it's reaching younger and younger people, and the numbers are not going down. So
Mm.
colon cancer has definitely been tied to the digestion of the foods, our mindset, and how we're taking care of our GI tract. And I cannot understand how everybody can sit there and think that the explosion of colon cancer is something incidental or that it just started like 20 or 30 years ago.
Mm.
It definitely has to do with the environment, the chemicals, and the bacteria in our gut.
Mhm. No doubt. And I think too, as you said, Natasha, that people just are not making the connection between what we're eating to our physical health, to our mental health, but it's all intertwined, it's all interconnected. And so the work that you're
Yeah.
doing is so impactful to changing lives.
And even skin health. I've done clinical trials that showed that our products um, performed as well as an antibiotic without ever damaging the skin for acne, for
Mm.
dermatitis, for psoriasis. People are amazed that 80% of the beauty of your skin comes from within. The
Mhm.
most expensive creams and whatever you do to your face only add 20%. And at 75, I can say my skin looks pretty good, and I take care of it.
And I will say this, that this is an audio, but I can see Natasha on video. And the one thing that I've been admiring is your glowing skin, Natasha. It is
Mhm.
incredible. And I would have never guessed your age had you not shared it because you look nowhere near that. And so that speaks to the effectiveness of the probiotic on the health.
Yeah, but it has to be a specific probiotic. And this is not a commercial venture for me, really. I've stayed on because I believe that I need good competition. I need people who understand what they're selling and not just giving the consumer what they think they want.
Mhm.
And to me, this is very important. And that's why I stay, because it's really a challenge for the 21st century to maintain immunity, to
Yeah.
maintain healthy gut issues, to maintain healthy mental issues, to maintain beautiful skin. All
Yeah.
of these are intertwined. They're not separate from each other. They're all interconnected, and they're all part of your body. Your body really is your subconscious mind.
Mm.
And yes, I say that, perception of reality is the one thing that can change or switch on and off genes. And the other two things are microbes in your gut and the toxins they produce. So when
Mm.
people say I have a genetic predisposition, well, nothing will happen unless you trip that genetic predisposition.
Mhm. Wow. This is again just such an impactful and insightful conversation regarding our gut health. And so Natasha, as we are winding down our show,
Mhm.
are there any words that you would like to share with the women who are listening regarding their gut health and mental?
Yeah, I was going to say I designed a system to restore the gut health. And that's the most important thing we have to do in this age and time because I believe the amount of chemicals in the air, the soil, and what we're consuming in our food has completely destroyed our microbiome and the composition of our microbiota. And we're giving what I call patchwork solutions, or gummies, to take
Mhm.
care of a very complex ecosystem. People are even engaging in selling dangerous bacteria such as soil bacteria for human consumption, just to take care of that symptom that people find annoying and want to get rid of. And what I'm trying to tell you is get into a precision probiotic system. You can contact my company. And again, this is not a commercial venture for me because I'm sort of semi retired. I only do this because I want people to understand how important this is. And I'm encouraging you to go to my website. I even have live people who are still working with me for 23 years because they said there's nothing more fulfilling than to know that you've helped thousands of people. And so this is how we need to change our society. The people
Mhm.
who are engaged in selling anything need to, first of all, have their heart in it, then their mind, and then be committed to making sure that people are benefiting from these concepts and that they're getting what they need.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And Natasha, it has been my absolute pleasure hosting you on the show today. You're just so full of wisdom. This has been so insightful. That's going to help so many women.
Yeah, so please reach out either at natureand.com, or we still have live people, believe it or not, who, like I said, been with me, and they're not telemarketing people. So if you call us at 866, the number 4, and then the word Natren spells Natren, they'll be happy to help you and become one of my family and spread the word. Like I said, I don't want to dominate any category. But what I'm doing is giving you a product and education so that you understand how this works and how it can transform your life, and get this out to other people so we encourage others to be in line and manufacture at the same level.
Mhm. Thank you so much again. And for those of you that are listening, I'm also going to include Natasha's links in the show notes so that you can have easy access to reach out to her and get the assistance and the support that you need for better health. So thank you again, Natasha, for being my guest today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Good health to everyone, and hope you have a wonderful life.
I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. I pray that it blessed and challenged you to move towards living the abundant life that God has for you. If so, would you stop right now to share this episode with someone who's been praying to improve their health spiritually, physically, or emotionally? I would love it if you could take 30 seconds to leave a review on Apple Podcasts. This is the only way that I know that you're liking the show. Also, it rocks my world to hear from you. Lastly, come on over to my free community, RekishiaMcMillanCommunity.com, to grab your free gifts. I have everything you need to know about working with me, taking my courses, or connecting. Also, head over to RekishiaMcMillan.com to explore my health products and sign up for free complimentary health coaching. My prayer for you will always be 3 John 2. Beloved, I wish above all things that you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. I'll see you in a few days. God bless.